Still something to me remembers things. Hands no rhythm, my mind can't trace. Like I've been shaped by another place. There's a fire in me I didn't light. Still it burns through every night. Call it memory, call it truth, but it don't feel new. They don't know, they just arrive. And every breath that keeps me alive. I'm not walking alone. I feel them near. In every doubt, in every tear. They left their footsteps in my soul. Now I'm following what I don't know. Every choice got a ghost behind. Every dream ain't fully mine. I am the voice they couldn't be. Now they echo through me. Why do I ache for things unseen? Why do I carry what I don't mean? Circles spinning like deja vu. Living a story I never knew. There's strength
To the one who
I
carried
never
blood
trained
and then
love
life in the
in my
light.
heart.
Thank you for giving
Survive
me
the
life,
pain.
love,
Every
and the
scar
legacy
got a
I'm now
deeper
walking.
root.
Your strength lives in
Every
every ritual
truth
of
got a
every
hidden
word.
proof. Speaking patterns, repeating time.
Holy and sacred one, I come before you as a child of the root and the wad. Guide me through shadow to the dawn of remembrance. May I walk forward with the courage of all who came before me, and may their light remain in my breath, in my song, in my becoming. Let the memory of their footsteps steady mine. Let the fire they carried illuminate the path yet unknown.
It burns through every night. Call it memory, call it every dream ain't fully mine. I am the voice they couldn't be. Now they echo through me. Time folding in my veins. Past and present feel the same. I heal something I can't see. Still it loosens inside of me. Every step I reclaim breaks a chain I never named. And somewhere back in history, they breathe easier through me.
Gateway to the ancestors. Welcome. We are on episode number 8. We are entering Miami circa 1860. The edge before everything changes. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, for taking out time to allow me to be your spiritual travel guide as we traverse Miami and go back in time to 1860 and what it meant to our people. As we come together, as this is a solemn thing, a serious thing, please allow me to tap in. Ashe. Father God, Mother God, all that is in you is in us. We thank you for the past. We thank you for the present, and we thank you for the future. We thank you and bless our bloodline as we visit this new destination here. We ask you to protect us from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet, from one side to the next. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Welcome. Welcome to the Gateway of the Ancestors, Episode 8, Miami, circa 1860. And before I say anything else, I need you to see, feel, and imagine. Come with me for real. Don't just hear this. Transport yourself. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and lock in. Because we're not just moving through space, we're moving through time. We left Jacksonville, Florida, and stepped back a whole decade deeper into Florida, deeper into the past. And I need you to hold that in your spirit, because this is before freedom opened up. This is before anything changed, before anything was given. And the ancestors of this land, ancestors, 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 the ones who walked this ground, who moved through this air, who had to make real decisions right here in this exact place. They are present, they are not gone. This is their lived experience, their breath still sitting in this land. And when you step into, you got to understand what you're looking at, because this is not a city. This is not what you know Miami to be. This is raw land. This is the southeastern edge of Florida, where the mainland starts to run out, the coastline stretching, mangroves thick, shallow waters cutting through the land in ways that would either guide you or trap you, depending upon what you know. And our ancestors didn't arrive here by chance. They came down from Georgia, from South Carolina, from plantation systems where they already knew they could not stay. As they moved through Florida, some connected with the Seminoles and the Black Seminoles, African and indigenous people living together inland, resisting, surviving, building something in the middle of everything they were up against. But not everybody stayed there. Some kept going. Some felt something pushing them further south. And when they reached this point here, this is where everything changes. Because now you're standing at the edge. You're standing at the edge. And I mean that literally, because right below this land, you got the Florida Keys, a chain of islands stretching out into open water. And beyond that is not safety you can see. That's ocean. And across that ocean is Cuba and the Bahamas. So now the situation changes. This is no longer just about moving through land. This becomes a real question. Do you stay in what you already understand and try to survive here? Or do you risk everything and step into water you cannot control? And I need you to feel that, because this land don't feel easy. It don't feel open. It feels like something is about to happen, but hasn't happened yet. This is the moment where our people are thinking, watching, listening deep in their spirit. Because once that choice is made, once you step, once you go there, there's no going back. And the ancestors knew. They knew that. They felt that. They stood right there and stood in that exact energy. And now, as their descendants, you are being brought back into the moment, not just to hear it, but to feel it, to understand it, to recognize that this is not just his story. This is connection. This is bloodline. This is the same kind of moment that shows up in your life when you know something has to change, but you haven't moved yet. So don't just listen. Feel where you are, because this right here is where everything begins to change. Welcome again to the gateway to the ancestors. And I'll be right back after this.
Circles spinning like deja vu. Living a story.
And soothe. In their light I move forward. As I breathe, they breathe with me. Every step is a promise kept. Every beat a blessing received. And I walk whole.
Still it loosens inside of me.
In 1860, Miami was no more than a stretch of docks, warehouses, and sand roads hugging the edge of the river. For the enslaved men and women who worked here, it was a place of relentless labor and of quiet community. They loaded citrus, timber, and hides onto trading schooners repaired next. In the evenings, when the ships were quiet and the day's work finally slowed, they gathered in yards and on porches, sharing food, stories, and news from far-off ports. These moments of rest were brief, but they bound families together and kept hope alive. Here, amid salt air and cypress smoke, they dreamed and relaxed the whims of ballast. And the waste men red stakes from oil sides in a moose Pie Harbor, they believed a freer morning could come.
Before we leave this place, we ask the ancestors one last thing. What needs to be honored here before we go? And what came through is fairness, law, and karma. To stand in your own integrity, stand in your own truth, and make decisions from a place of alignment. Relationships, emotions, and choices, meaning you cannot separate where integrity was.
Around this time, I need you to really understand what you're looking at, because South Florida is not what people picture now. This is not developed land. This is not structured. This is raw coastline, mangroves, water cutting through in ways that only certain people understood. And if you didn't know how to read this land, it would confuse you quick. This is the kind of place where the land can guide you or get you caught depending upon how you move through it. And our ancestors that passed through here, as they moved south, they started hearing things, whispers about Spanish Florida, about places where black people were not being held the same way. Now let me show you how this actually looks so you can see it clear. Picture, right, in your mind, a map, just for a second. Okay, up top, right, you got Georgia and South Carolina. Plantation systems. That's where people are starting from. And then you're moving down through Florida, not on roads like today, but through land, through brush, through whatever path that you can find. Midway, you got Seminole and Black Seminole territories inland, where some people connect, regroup, and build, but then you keep going further down and you hit Miami, the edge of the mainland. And right below that, you got the Florida Keys, a chain of islands stretching out into the ocean. And beyond that is open water leading to Cuba and the Bahamas. That's the route. And that's what this is. A real path people took. And when you see it like that, you understand exactly where you're standing and why this place matters. And when you really take all of that in, not just the map, not just the history, but where you're standing right now, it lands in your body a little different, because this is no longer just something you're hearing. This is something that you're stepping into. And the ancestors and the ones who actually made it this far, who stood at this exact edge of land and water, they are present here, not as memory, but as real presence that comes through your body. And what comes through here is focus. It's people who had already come too far to turn around. And you can recognize that in how this land meets the water, how everything comes down to a point where a choice has to be made. This is not calculated in the way that we would think. This is people reading everything around them, the land, the water, the timing, the people, and also reading themselves, because at this point, it's not just about what you see, it's about what you trust inside of you. And our ancestors did not have guarantees. They did not have certainty, but they had instinct. They had that inner knowing that carried them this far. And now they're standing here asking themselves if they trusted enough to go further. And what comes through here is steady, not confusion, but clarity, a clear understanding of what is in front of them. Because once you leave land like this, once you go beyond this point, everything changes. And they knew that. They felt that in their bodies. And they still had to face it, still had to decide, and still had to stand in that moment fully aware of what it meant. And when you really connect to that, when you stop looking at this like it's just his story and allow it to move through you as something real, something lived, something carried through our ancestors, you start to recognize that this same kind of moment exists in your life too. That place where everything you've done has brought you to a point where you can't stay the same, but you also don't fully know what comes next. And that's where they were, right there, standing at this edge, trusting something deeper than what they could see. Ashe and deep bow to them.
They couldn't be. Now they echo through me. Why do I ache for things unseen? Why do I carry what I don't mean? Circles spin like deja vu. Living a story I never knew. There's strength in me. I never trained love in my heart that survived the pain. Every scar got a deeper root. Every truth got a hidden proof. They speak in patterns, repeating time. What was theirs is showing up in mine. I'm not walking alone. I feel them near in every doubt, in every tear. They left their footsteps in my soul. Now I'm following what I don't know. Every choice got a ghost.
The root grounds me, the water carries me. Through the gateway I meet those who walked before. Their breath moves in mine. My hands remember they mend and soothe. In their light I move forward. As I breathe, they breathe with me. Every step is a promise kept, every beat a blessing received, and I walk whole.
Still it loosens inside of me.
In 1860, Miami was no more than a stretch of docks, warehouses, and sand roads hugging the edge of the river. For the enslaved men and women who worked here, it was a place of relentless labor and of quiet community. They loaded citrus, timber, and hides onto trading schooners repaired next. In the evenings, when the ships were quiet and the day's work finally slowed, they gathered in yards and on porches, sharing food, stories, and news from far-off ports. These moments of rest were brief, but they bound families together and kept hope alive. Here, amid salt air and cypress smoke, they dreamed and relaxed the whims of ballast. And the waste men read things from oil sides in a moose high harbor. They believed a freer morning could come.
They came out of Georgia, out of South Carolina, plantations they already knew they couldn't stay on. Through Florida they moved, into the wet flatland, and some linked up with Seminoles and Black Seminoles, African and indigenous together, resisting, surviving, making a life in the middle of everything set against them, but not everybody's seeds. And the water answered them calm that morning, as if saying, yes, come on. They touched shore with nothing but each other and whatever they could carry, yet it felt more than they had ever owned. Out here, it's still a gamble.
Picture a map in your mind. Up top, Georgia and South Carolina, plantation country. From there, people pushed south, off the roads, through brush. Midway, they found Seminole and Black Seminole ground, a place to gather and rebuild. Keep moving and you reach Miami. Those waters carried thousands toward new lives. Today, the route still speaks, through markers, through names, through the silence of the sea. When we stand here, we trace their journey.
Step I reclaim, breaks a chain I never.
We are up to the portion where I tapped into the ancestors of Miami area in 1860 and asked them questions. And these are the answers that were given to me to go through me to you. Ashe. Gratitude, ancestors of this time. Gratitude to the ancestors that escorted them here. Ashe and deep bow to you. What were our ancestors preparing for in this place at this time? We ask the ancestors, the ones who stood on this land, who moved through this exact point in time, what they were preparing for here. And what comes through first is self-doubt, confusion, and free will. And that right there is real. Because by the time they reached this far south, they already knew that they couldn't stay where they came from. But that doesn't mean the next step was clear. That doesn't mean that the path in front of them made sense. What they were preparing for was not just movement, it was belief. Belief in themselves that there was another way, even if they couldn't see it yet, that it takes something internal. Because when you're standing at the edge like this, doubt will come up, confusion will come up. But what also comes up is the understanding that you still have a choice. And that choice is where your freedom begins. And right behind that comes awakening. The ability to see beyond what is right in front of you. To understand that even when things are not moving the way that you want them to, there is still a path being laid out. And our ancestors had to trust that. They had to hold a vision that went beyond their current situation. And at the same time, they were being called to pause, to look again, to adjust to see what they may have missed, because not every delay is denial. Sometimes it is direction. And then we move into choices because that is what this place ultimately represents. Not just having options, but being able to choose and knowing that the choice carries something. And sometimes the hardest part is not knowing what to do. It's deciding to actually do it, not sitting in overthinking and not sitting in delay, but trusting the internal compass enough to move forward. Ashe. The next question. What emotional or spiritual energy is still sitting in this land? The energy that remains here is transformation, realization, and liberation. And that makes sense because this land was never just about where you were. It was about where you were going. And that was being released in order to get there. And the ancestors are showing that even when change feels uncomfortable, even when it feels like everything is being turned upside down, it's still leading you somewhere. It still has purpose. And what sits in this land is that understanding that everything that happens is moving you towards something. There's also joy connected to this. The joy that comes from knowing you are stepping into something greater than what you left behind. That energy is still here. and a reminder that fulfillment is possible, that you're allowed to want more, and that moving toward it is not wrong. The next question: what is this place activating in the bloodline when it comes to movement and decision? What is being activated is speed, activity, and expansion. And that's powerful because once the decision is made, things begin to move quickly. Opportunities begin to show up. Information begins to come in, and it can feel like a whole lot at once. Like everything is happening at the same time, and the real work becomes choosing what to do next. Alongside that is vision, the ability to see further than where you are, to understand that what you already done is not the end. It's just the beginning of the next phase. The ancestors are making it clear that you don't stop here, you build on what you've done, or you choose something new. But either way, you keep going. The next question: what fear had to be faced before taking the next step? The fear here is deeply emotional, connected to openness, vulnerability, and intuition. Moving forward requires you to feel, to trust, when it doesn't even make sense. And that's not an easy thing, especially when you have to protect yourself for so long. There's also the energy of independence and contentment, which shows that part of the fear is stepping into your own stability and your ability to sustain yourself, to stand on your own and be okay with that. To trust that you can create something for yourself. And there is also overwork, stress, and imbalance. Sometimes the fear shows up as doing too much, carrying too much, trying to control everything instead of allowing things to unfold. The ancestors are reminding you that you don't have to do everything alone. You don't have to exhaust yourself to move forward. The next question: what truth about leaving and staying is this place trying to reveal? The truth is indecision, cannot stay. Avoidance cannot stay. Clarity is required because at this point, not choosing is still a choice, and delaying only keeps you where you are. There is also the truth of knowledge and expression, that as you learn, as you gather information, you must also speak, act, because knowing without doing does not move you forward. And ultimately, this leads to success, recognition, and confidence, showing that when you do choose, when you do move, there is something waiting on the other side of that, something that aligns with you and who you are becoming. The last question: what guidance are the ancestors offering us when we are standing on the edge of a major decision? The guidance is reflection, self-evaluation, and rebirth. Because this moment is not small. This is a defining moment, and everything that has happened up until now has brought you here, but what you do next determines where you go. The ancestors are making it clear. This is not the time to stay stuck in the past. This is the time to step into your own power, to release what no longer aligns, to move in a way that reflects who you are, becoming, not who you used to be. This is your moment to choose. Ashe. And that is the message from the ancestors of this place, at this time, through me, to you. Ashe.
In 1860, on the edge of the mangroves, they gathered to read together. Not only the letters on the page, but the questions between them. Self-doubt, confusion, choice. They searched for a way to see beyond what stood in front of their eyes, preparing for something larger, free will. What emotional or spiritual energy is still sitting in this land? Transformation, realization, and liberation. There is also joy. What is this place activating in the bloodline when it comes to movement and decision? The guide.
Clarity is required. Knowledge and expression that as you learn, as you gather information, leads to success, recognition, and confidence. The guidance is reflection, self-evaluation, and rebirth.
Before we leave this place, we ask the ancestors one last thing. What needs to be honored here before we go? And what came through is fairness, law, and karma. To stand in your own integrity, stand in your own truth, and make decisions from a place of alignment. Relationships, emotions, and choices, meaning you cannot separate where integrity was.
Look at our ancestors. They didn't have everything lined up, a clear answer. They didn't get to sit there and wait until it felt safe. All they had was a gut feeling telling them, you can't stay here. And that's where some of y'all are stuck at right now. Because
now let's really talk about it. Because this is the part where you can't just sit back and listen like this don't got nothing to do with you. Because it does. Some of y'all are right here in your life. Some type of moment. You know something's got to change. You've been knowing it. It's been sitting on you, coming back to you, showing up in different ways. And you keep pushing it off. Trying to think your way through it. To line everything up so it makes perfect sense before you move. But that's not how this works. When you look at our ancestors, especially in a place like this, they didn't have everything lined up. Or did they have a clear answer? They didn't get to sit there and wait until it felt safe. A lot of the time, all they had was the feeling in their gut telling them, you can't stay here. And that had to be enough. And that's where some of y'all are stuck right now. Because you do know. And you don't fully trust it yet. You keep looking for something outside of you to confirm what you already feel inside. And the truth is, that confirmation that you're waiting on might not come the way that you expect it to. So now it comes back to, for real, what are you about to do with what you already know? Because staying where you are is just because it's familiar. You understand it. It don't require you to stretch or risk anything. That don't mean it's where you're supposed to be. People don't like to sit with that. Once that you admit that, now you're responsible for the next step. And you can't say you didn't know. Now you can't act like it wasn't put in front of you. So the real question is not, what if it don't work. The real question is, what if it do? And you talked yourself out of it because you were too busy waiting for everything to make sense first. Think about that. Ashe? All right. And as we close, before we leave this place, we ask the ancestors one last thing. What needs to be honored here before we go? And what came through was fairness, law, and karma, meaning that nothing that has happened, nothing that has been done, nothing that has been experienced is without balance. Everything is being accounted for. They are reminding you to stand in your own integrity, in your own truth, and make decisions from a place of alignment, not just what looks right, but what feels right in your spirit, because that's where your peace comes from. And tied into that is relationships, emotions, and choices, meaning that you cannot separate what you feel from what you choose. You have to go deeper, and you have to be honest with yourself about what your heart is actually saying. The decision that you make has to come from a real place, not pressure or fear, but truth. Then comes sorrow, forgiveness, and healing. And this is where they soften it. They are acknowledging that there are things that hurt, linger, and things that sit in you. But they are also making it clear that you are not alone in that, that healing is available. Growth comes from those experiences, and that you are allowed to move forward without taking that stuff that happened to you as being a weight on your spirit. And right behind that is courage, compassion, and perseverance, reminding you that you are stronger than you think, and that you have the ability to stand in what you believe in without losing yourself. That being kind does not make you weak. It makes you knowing who you are and moving from that place. And when we ask, what do the ancestors want you to remember as you move forward from here? And what came through is confidence, passion, adventure, meaning don't play yourself small. Don't play yourself, period. Don't hesitate to step into what is calling you, because you are capable of handling more than you give yourself credit for. But at the same time, they showed mistakes and redirection, meaning not everything is going to go the way you planned, and that's okay. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually guidance pushing you toward a better path. They also showed intelligence, determination, self-trust, reminding you that you already have what you need within you, and that the people will be drawn to that when you stand fully in that. And then they brought you to conflict and distraction, letting you know that not everything around you is meant to stay with you. Not every person, not every situation. And you have to be mindful of what is pulling your energy away from what you are building. Then comes introspection and mentorship and guidance, meaning don't be afraid to seek wisdom, and also don't be surprised if you are the one being called to guide others, because that is the part of your path. as well, and patience, investment, and growth, reminding you that everything that you are working on takes time. Not everything shows itself immediately, but that doesn't mean it's not growing. And finally, manifestation, empowerment, and preparedness, letting you know that you are building what you are working toward. It's coming into form, but you have to stay aligned. You have to stay ready. And you have to recognize the signs when they show up. One thing came through clearly, and it needs to be said. Not every spirit that tries to come around is meant to be there. There was a presence that came through that does not align, a trickster energy, and it is not welcome. It does not belong in this place, and it does not belong in this space. And we are setting that boundary clearly. Only those who come in truth, in alignment, in protection, in guidance are allowed here. Everything else is dismissed. So as we close this out, don't rush out of this. Don't just move on like this didn't sit with you, because it did. You were brought here for a reason, to see it, to feel it, to understand it, and to carry something from it forward. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and that is the message from them through me to you. Ashe. Ashe.
Leave this place, we ask the ancestors one last thing. What needs to be honored here before we go? And what came through is fairness, law, and karma. To stand in your own integrity, stand in your own truth, and make decisions from a place of alignment. Relationships, emotions, and choices, meaning you cannot separate where integrity was.
You look at our ancestors, they didn't have everything lined up, a clear answer. They didn't get to sit there and wait until it felt safe. All they had was a gut feeling telling them, you can't stay here. And that's where some of y'all are stuck at right now. Because you do know, and you don't believe that way now.
But trust that spark in your chest. Trust that voice that won't quiet down. Because the moment you do, everything around you starts to rearrange. Not because it suddenly got easy, but because you finally believe things you find you think. You have the ability to stand in what you believe in. And that is the message from them, through me, to you. Ashe. Thank you.
Next stop on our journey through the gateway of the ancestors is Tampa, circa 1850, where our enslaved ancestors walked this land.
Thank you for traveling with us today. Until next time, I am your spiritual travel guide, Blended Healing. Rest well and have a good night. Ashe.
Set them free. Set them free.
As I said, the next stop from here, we're going to be moving to Tampa, Florida, circa 1850. I want to thank you again for stopping through. Please make sure that you come back. And if you're enjoying the series, please drop me comments. I'll read them. You know I will. And don't forget that there will be an announcement coming soon. With that, we want to thank the ancestors for coming through. And we now close the gate so they may go in rest. Be well, stay safe. Ashe and deep bow. Next stop, Tampa.
In 1830s Tampa, the institution of enslavement bound thousands to the land. Women performed grueling labor, their strength essential to the economy.